Hi, good morning. Is it audible? Uh, Hello. So, yesterday class, we had a discussion on this access modifiers. So, so basically, we have a four kinds of access modifiers. One is a private, default, public. So, private only we can use within the class. We cannot use in within the package. Outside the package, classes inside the package, we cannot be use a private. Only the private is accessible within the class. No, the default is only if you are not providing any modifiers. This type of the things what we are saying default modifier. So default modifier applicable for within the class within the package. Outside the package for the subclass we cannot be use it. Outside the package we cannot be use the default modifier. So protected modifier we can use within a class, within the package, outside the package, or its subclass also we can use it. Outside a package, we cannot access the protected modifier. Public, anywhere I can access. It may be within the class or it may be within the package, outside a package for subclass or outside a package. So public, anywhere I can access. Private within the class, default within the class and within the package, protected within the class, within the package, outside a package for the subclass. Outside a package, we cannot be used directly for the protected. Public, we can use anywhere within class, within the package, outside a package for class, and also outside a package, we can access the public modifier. So these are all the four kinds of the access modifier. You should be aware of this table because it is one of the interview objective question also. Now next, this is the assignment. Please take this assignment and try yourself. Okay. Next, we move on exception. What actually the exception handling? So the exception in the sense the abnormal flow of termination. So suddenly the program goes to be terminated. Such things what we are saying exception. Basically the exception is a class in Java. Basically exception is a class in Java. So why do we use this exception handling? To handle abnormal execute termination of program, we go for what? Exception handling. In the Selenium also we are using some exceptions like what? Element not found exception, no such element exception. So such kind of exceptions we are coming into the picture. So in the Selenium, to handle those things, we learning what? Sorry, exception handling. So look at the picture. The exception is dividing into two categories. One is predefined exception, another one is a user-defined exception. So predefined exception means what? Already it is available in the Java, just you can use those exceptions. So predefined exceptions are what? The exceptions which are already present in the Java. So such exceptions are called what? Predefined exception. Basically, we are dividing into based on their executions, based on their operations, asynchronous exception and the synchronous. You can keep in mind always we are working on with the synchronous. Asynchronous, it is basically related with external errors, like what? Hardware. So if it is bootstrap method error, illegal memory, overstack of memory error sets. I will give one example out of memory error. So what it means, assume that your storage capacity is 2 GB. You are trying to be adding 2.5 GB. It is not possible, right? We cannot be increase or decrease the size. So that is related with the hardware. We are not bother about the hardware. So hardware errors. Hardware errors we can say as an asynchronous. If you are getting any error, then it is say the asynchronous. But when you come up with the synchronous what happens? Deals with the programmer. If the programmer had a mistake, such time you are getting an exception. Those exceptions you are going to be handling. Such exceptions are called what? Asynchronous exceptions. As I mentioned here, look at. So deals with the program runtime errors. So this asynchronous deals with what? Hardware. For example, as I told you, out of memory. But here not like that. Synchronous what happen? It is basically deals with the program. So when the programmer is done a mistake, such time you are getting some exceptions. Such exceptions are called what? Asynchronous exceptions. Or you can say simply it is an exception. Basically, it is a error. Both type are errors only, but it is a super class for the exception. All these classes ends with exception because these are all what synchronous exception. Basically, we can say checked exception, unchecked exception. As we consider with these things, we are dealing with these only. We are not bothered about synchronous. So checked exception means what? The exceptions which are checked by the compiler at the time of compilation. Such type of exceptions are called what? Checked exception. So unchecked exception means what? The name itself telling. The compiler will not check at the time of compilation, but these exceptions will rise at the time of running a program. So that's what it is called a runtime exception. Keep in mind, guys. Checked exception always get the exception at the time of compilation. But unchecked exceptions will not give you any exception at the time of compilation. These exceptions will become at the time of run. When you run the program, you will get an exception. Such type of exceptions are called what? Unchecked exceptions. Is it clear? So here I given some of the checked exception example, like security exception, file not found exception, class not found exception, illegal access exception, unsupported operation exceptions. These type of exceptions are the example of exceptions or checked exceptions. So now unchecked exceptions are what? The unchecked exceptions we will get at the time of running an program. So those type of exceptions are called what? Runtime exception, or you can say unchecked exceptions. Like what? Arithmetic exception, array index bound of exception, index out of bound exception, number format exception, null pointer exception. These are all what type of exception? These are all unchecked exceptions, or you can say runtime exceptions. I hope you clear about this one. If you have any queries, please let me ask. Any questions? Yes. Any questions? I hope you understand. Let's go for the practical. Let's say here. So how do we handle those exceptions? Like what? By using these keywords, we are going to be handling the exceptions. Like what? Java exception handling keywords, which are those try, catch, finally, throws, throw. These are the 5 keywords. Using these 5 keywords, we are going to be handling the exceptions. Let me show you one exception. Take new file, Java project exception. So here I'm creating one simple class test one. Okay. So let's say here write a main method. So I'm trying to be executing some exceptions. Let's say here, if I say 10 by 0, we are not getting any exceptions here. Save and run this. So in this case, what type of exception I'm getting? Arithmetic exceptions. The value which is divided by 0, this is what the exceptions we are getting. So how do we handle these exceptions? Okay. This is what type of exception? This is an runtime exception. Or we can say or unchecked exceptions. Okay. Let's go to the here. So first, how do we handle those exceptions? By using try catch block. By using try catch block, we are going to be handling the exception. Basically, try is what? A Java try block is used to enclose the code that might have throw an exception. Means the risky code we have to write into the try block. It must be applied a statement level within the method. Always you should be right within the method. Try block must be followed either catch or finally. We cannot write single try. You should follow always catch block, or you can use an finally block. Use for both unchecked and checked exception. Try catch block always used for to handle all kinds of exception. It might be a unchecked or it may be a checked exception. Java catch block used to handle the exception. It must be used after try block only. As I told you, we cannot use try block single. We can go for compulsory try catch. So it must be used to either try block, and you can use multiple catch block within the single try. For the single try, I can use multiple catch block. Let me go to one example. As I told you, 1 by 0 may throw the exception. So this is what kind of output we are getting when I say 50 by 0. This is divisible by 0. Arithmetic exception we are getting. So how do you handle this one? By using try catch block. Let's say here. So here I am using public class try catch. Int 10 by 0. You are getting arithmetic. So it is handling the exception. So as I told you here, how do we handle this? By using try. Always in the try block, what we have to write? Risky code means that might be a rise an exception, and we cannot use single try block. Yes or no? We are getting a compilation error. So how do we get catch block? Within the catch block, if you know, then you can say arithmetic exception. So here I'm saying the output. Here I'm saying do not pass divisible as 0. If you are pass any value with divisible 0, then you are getting what? Arithmetic exception. Say so no. If you want to print the exception, just you have to say the reference variable for the this arithmetic class. You can say here, we'll get the exception. Now you can run this. Sir, you are getting with an exception. So, sir, if I am not passing any 0 value, in that case, you won't execute, you are not getting any exception. So that's what it will not be executed. Sir, no? So this is the way you should be handle the try here. So I can use multiple try block. Sorry, for a single try block, multiple catch statement. How do we do that? We go to here, take a class. Let's do. So here I'm writing main method. So within the try block, you can say here catch. Okay, let me write a code here. So here I'm saying L by 0. So you are getting one exception, that is arithmetic exception. Now here just I am declaring one string is equal to null I am assigning. When I say the null, so here printing the value. Let's say s dot get length. This time saying length. It is a null, but in where directly we are accessing. So already I know the exception. That's what I am writing. Arithmetic exception E. So here I can say, can give the message, do not pass divisible as, do not pass divisible as 0. And one more catch statement I need to be right because, so let me go to here, null pointer exception. This is always reproduced, null pointer exception. So here I can say, just I'm giving one message, string value is null. So here I'm saying string value is null. So in that case, what we are getting? We are getting a null pointer exception. If this not matched, let me take one more exception. This is a superclass exception. I'm saying superclass exception. And now we can save it. So look at in the first statement, in the first line, what type of exception I'm getting? Thematic exception. It will not execute remaining the things. Let's say save it, run the application. So I'm getting divisible. That's you want to print, you can print this value. So you are getting arithmetic exception. Sir, no? But if I pass here 1, it will not get any arithmetic exception. We are getting what? Null pointer exception because the string value is a null. Now we can solve null pointer exception. So in this way, you can handle multiple time of exceptions. Now, sir, can I write within the single catch multiple statements? Yes, that is also possible. Let me take one example, test 3. So here I am writing main method. Okay. Now, in the try block, okay, try. Here I'm saying same value I'm taking 0 and string is equal to null I'm taking. So here I'm accessing the null length. In this case, I should get an type of exception. We are getting null pointer exception. So how do I write multiple exception in the single catch statement? Let's say here. So just I'm saying arithmetic exception or what type of exception we are getting? Null pointer exception or can you go for or also? If not match any exception, in that case, I should go for exception. Here I can take. For it is possible the single. So here I'm saying just I'm printing an e dot print stack trace. It will print the complete information. So directly here I can write e dot. Let me run this. What type of exception I'm getting? Java.lang arithmetic exception. If I make here 1, in that case I should get null pointer exception. So for a single catch, I can handle multiple catch blocks. Within the catch, I can declare multiple exceptions. This is also possible in the catch block. Is it clear? How do we use a try catch? Next. Multiple catch block. Like this also I already shown you within the single also you can handle it. Now let's go for finally. So finally block what? The finally block is a used to execute important code such as closing connections, clean, closing activity or cleanup activity. Always we have to write in the finally block. The Java finally block is always execute whether the exception is rise or not. Means exception is handled or not. By default, the finally block will be executed. The Java finally block throws try catch block. Always you should be go for finally block or try catch blocks. So look at the syntax here. Try code is thrown an exception, catch block, and execute finally. If this code is not execute means the exception will not rise, then also the finally block will be executed. Let's go to practical. I will show you one example. Here, take here new, take class, finally test. Let me write the main method. So here I can write try, and here I can write catch, and also I can write finally. So here I'm writing one statement, arithmetic exception, then by 0. So here I'm handling the exception dot print stack trace. Directly I can access all the names. Finally block will be execute always. Yes. Is in finally block. Whether finally will execute. Always the finally will be executed. Let me say here I'm raising an exception. So first try block will execute. Later it will handle the catch block. And finally will be execute. Let me save and run this application. So, so first I'm getting an exception. Then it will print then it's a catch block. Then finally block will be executed. Now if I am not raising any exception, in that case also the finally block will be executed. Yes or no? Means the finally always executes. If you go for try catch or you can go for try finally. Let me take that example. So here I'm saying test 4. Directly I'm using try and finally also positive. Sorry. So here I'm saying try block. Yes. Then I'm directly use for finally. So here can raise an exception. And here I'm saying finally it is in finally finally this is also possible. Let me run this. This is also possible. Now if you are not raising any exception, time also it will go fine. Yes, this is what try and finally also we can use. Okay, next. So usage of finally basically as I told you, exception does not occur, exception not handle, exception occur. These three cases the finally block will be executed. As I told you, these by if the exception will rise or not, finally will execute. If the rise, and also it will work. If not rise, that also it will work. Finally. Basically keep in mind, finally block mainly used for cleanup activities like closing a connection, closing a statement. These things we are using for a finally. Next, so Java finally example where exception does not occur. As I shown you, if this one, if you are minding, so as I told you, system finally block is always executes. Catch null pointer exception. Okay. Now exceptions was occurs not handled. The finally, as I told you, try catch finally. These things. Next to this is an arithmetic as the same example with the other value I am showing you. How do you use a throws? Throws basically used for checked exception. Keep in mind, throws always used for checked exception. It should be applied at the method level. Always it should be used for method level. Let's say example 1 here. So this is the way you should be handled. You see, so throw interrupted exception is one of the run compile time exceptions. So you should be handle this exception before you are compiling your code. Okay. So throws keyword, what it will do, throws always handles the method level exception. Throws always handles method level exception. Now, the second example, if you are reading any file from the any drive, let's say this is the part of that file you are reading. So in that case, what type of exception you are handling? IO exception. So it is a method level exception. Okay. So let me go for one example. Let me take class test file. Now here I'm writing a main. So I'm using try and try say here. So I'm saying uh, giving some sleep method. Sleep is timing slice. So let's say red dot sleep method. So just I'm giving 1000 seconds milliseconds. So when I say it is saying what it should be handled. So there is one more question, guys. In how many ways we can handle the exception in Java? So look at when you mouse over on it, it is saying it two things. By using throws declaration, another one is what? Try catch. Keep in mind, you can handle the exception in Java at two ways. One is throws keyword, another one is a try catch. So if you say try catch like this, if you handle this, just to mouse over, add a throws declaration, it will show the instead exception. Now you can run this program. So it is taking a time, right? That sleep method we are handling. Throws always be handled with the method level. Now, next one more is throw is there. Throw is also important. Say, so let's say throw and a throws. Throw is what? Throw is keyword explicitly throw an exception. Throws what? Java keyword used to declare an exception. Just I will show you one simple example on the throw. Throw always inside the method it will be used. Means explicitly user has to be create an exception. That exception you need to be throwing. Now always write in a method, guys. So say throw new arithmetic exception. Here I am throwing one exception. What exception? Arithmetic exception. Means Prashant declare the exception. This is a uh, this is user defined text means slope. When I run this, it will throw the exception, right? Now we can say so exception in thread main. What exception? Arithmetic. It is the message. Prashant declared this exception. So this is what throw. Throw always used inside a method. And it is what type of exception? Throw always explicitly we can. User has to be given to the exception to the JVM. But throws to handle with the method level. As I given some of the difference between throw and throws. Okay. So see here. So throws and a throw. Throw what it will do? Java throw keyword is used to explicitly throw an exception. Explicitly means user has to be throw that. Programmer has to be throw the exception. Now, throws keyword is used to declare an exception. Now, checked exception cannot be propagated using throw. Checked exception can be propagated.